Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 239. Without any delay, start explanation. Making Yuan Yehue's battle armor was the most complicated process of all, because of her twin martial soul. Moreover, neither of her twin martial souls were submissive to the other. Thus, she spent a very long time just on its design. She unleashed her fallen angel martial soul. Her battle armor had turned a deep purple after 3 types of metals were added. Every pattern on her battle armor was brimming with strength, while a pair of black feathered wings spread open behind her back in addition to her feminine appearance. She was exuding a mysterious yet miraculous aura. Her suit of battle armor would undergo some changes when she had transformed into the Titan giant ape, in order to allow amplification of her fighting capabilities. Yuan Yehue sacrificed the ability to fly when she was in the Titan giant ape form so she could make the most of her combat skills. Hence, she could only unleash her fallen angel martial soul when Amaristoluo commanded everyone to fly. Heaven Double was the name given by Yuan Yehue for her 2-word battle armor. The word heaven originated from the place where her fallen angel martial soul was expelled from, while the word double was derived from Xie's double dragon dagger. Yuan Yehue was planning on naming her 2-word battle armor Heavenly Titan, to represent both her martial souls, the Titan giant ape, and the fallen angel. She finally agreed to add Xie's name after his never-ending coaxing and pestering. There was no telling how many vows of loyalty he had made to her in exchange. She was Heaven Double Yuan Yehue. Xu Xiaoyuan's battle armor was the most breathtaking of them all. After achieving 2-word battle armor status, her battle armor had turned completely transparent, as if it was carved out of crystal. It was complicated yet beautiful, with all sorts of circles forming a pattern of streamlines on the surface. It was as if there were countless starlights on the inside of the battle armor. The concept of this design was acquired when they were on the star observation platform before. The speckles of starlights were unleashed from the core circuit, so it had an extremely strong amplification effect on her abilities. It was capable of shortening the time needed to unleash her star staff while increasing the duration of its effectiveness. At the same time, it could also unleash the star guard barrier on its own, creating an extremely powerful defense. It could borrow the star's power, especially at night, so her defensive power could even exceed Xu Lishi's. Star Universe was the name given by Xu Xiaoyuan for her 2-word battle armor. The word star was taken from her star guard barrier, while the word universe was derived from Yu Jingyu's name. She was Star Universe Xu Xiaoyuan. Yu Jingyu stood behind Xu Xiaoyuan with his hands touching her crystal clear yet exquisite scaled wings. His pair of pure white feathered wings spread out behind his back. His battle armor remained the same color as it was as 1-word battle armor. It was pure white and flawless with elegant golden patterns, brimming with holiness. Holy runes were engraved on his battle armor that appeared thicker and heavier with even more magnificent patterns than when it was still 1-word battle armor. His pair of wings were completely covered by battle armor, and a royal crown adorned his head. His entire body was exuding a holy aura. It was still daytime. Sunlight illuminated the grounds and shone against his body, enhancing his holy aura overwhelmingly. He was the exact opposite of Xu Xiaoyuan because his fighting capabilities would be slightly stronger during the day due to his holy angel martial soul. Heavenward was the name given by Yu Jingyu for his 2-word battle armor. The word heaven originated from the place where his holy angel martial soul came from, while the word was derived from the word yang in Xu Xiaoyuan's name. He was Heavenward Yu Jingyu. 8 of them with 8 suits of battle armor. Their cultivation bases were already elevated to an entirely new level now that they possessed their own 2-word battle armor. Other than Yu Jingyu, the rest of them had made rather drastic changes to their battle armor. This was intentionally done by Tang Wulin during the upgrade process. Soon, they would be unable to show their real faces to the world, possibly for a very long period of time. It was their highest priority to protect themselves well under such circumstances. Even though their battle armors did not reveal too much, it was still possible that certain observant people would be able to tell who they were. The changes to their battle armors would make them relatively harder to identify. On the other hand, Yu Jingyu's case was rather unique. His battle armor's engraved runes were made specifically for the Holy Angel clan, so any radical alterations to his battle armor would result in the weakening of his fighting capacity on a large scale. He chose to maintain the original style after much consideration. Those 8 people were Dragon Moon Tang Wulin, Dragon Qilin Ji Yu Yunan, Heaven Word Yu Jingyu, Star Universe Shu Xiaoyan, Heaven Double Yuan and Yehui, Dragon Knight Xie Xie, Star Wisdom Yi Xinglan and Guardian Star Shu Lishi. They finally had their own titles after acquiring their 2-word battle armor. The title was made up of the combination between one's martial soul and the name of one's lover. Zongxin could not help cracking into a smile that came from the bottom of his heart as he watched them unleashing their battle armors and witnessed as pairs of feathered or scaled wings spread out. This was the first time he was seen smiling so joyously ever since the great catastrophe that befell Shrek Academy and the Tang sect. These young people were even more outstanding than he had expected. Not only did their cultivation bases far exceed their peers, but their battle armor was also extraordinary. Clearly, their armor was not made in a rush just for the purpose of elevation, as they had made them upon solid foundations. These were the battle armors most suitable for themselves, of quality that far exceeded their peers. "Follow me." Zongxin's body swayed as he spoke, and he flew into the air above the mountain valley. Tang Wulin and the rest of the group flapped their wings and followed Zongxin as they flew into the air. Yuan and Yehui and Yu Jingyu were still most skilled in flying naturally, while the rest of the people rarely had time for flying practice after they acquired their 2-word battle armors. They appeared slightly unstable upon flying into the air, but they were a generation of prodigious geniuses that could control their bodies within a split second. They spread their wings and channeled out their soul power to allow themselves to suspend in the air. With a wave of his hand, Amorous Doluor led their descent into the mountain valley. Meanwhile, the faint golden glow was released from his body, forming a shield of light that enshrouded Tang Wulin and his companions. The light shield dove into with them inside it, and Tang Wulin and the rest could immediately see a magnificent layer of 7-colored mist on the inside of this mountain valley. Just as they entered the mist, they were shocked when they realized that there was an intense energy fluctuation on the surface of their protective light shield. Despite it being conjured from Amorous Doluor's unfathomable cultivation base, holes and breaches began to appear all over the shield. This is known as 7-colored miasma. It's one of the strongest poisons in the world, capable of corroding anything. It has been gathering on top of this mountain valley for many years, and there's also some found in the surrounding forest. Our sect expended a lot of strength and effort to gather it on top of this mountain valley to increase its concentration. It'll only take a brief moment to corrode even a black mecha into nothingness. Only a person with at least Hyper Doluor's cultivation base can rely on his soul power to protect his body and withstand the damage from the 7-colored miasma for a short period of time. There was no doubt that this was the strongest protection for Icefire Polarized eyes. Even a Hyper Doluor could possibly be trapped without prior knowledge of such a toxin. Fortunately, the poisonous mist was not too thick. Their visual field brightened abruptly after they flew through a few dozen meters. A small valley appeared before them. The group was immediately astonished by the extraordinary scene before their eyes as soon as they saw the situation in the mountain. A peculiar lake came into view first. It had 2 colors, with one side being blue while the other was red. Both sides of the lake had a clear distinction as they did not cross into one another. The name of Icefire Polarized must have originated from this. Exotic flowers and herbs grew on the shores around this double-colored lake. There was also a gargantuan flower that could be seen even from the sky. It was incomparably massive. Tang Wulin's purple demon eyes could tell at a glance that he could not recognize most of the vegetation over here. There was no doubt that these were top-grade heaven and earth treasures. On the other hand, monstrous auras suddenly rushed at them from below as they descended from the sky. The feeling seemed to be very hostile. What was that? The Amorous Doluor Zongxin smiled. A purple light flashed within his eyes. Immediately, the divine intentions were shattered. The pressure decreased and Zongxin led them to land in the valley. The vegetation parted before them, and a patch of barren land was exposed. There was just enough space for the 9 of them to stand on. When they landed in the valley, everyone was shocked by the vegetation before them. It was a world with a riot of colors. Every plant seemed magnified here. Xie exclaimed with puzzlement, "Is that the blazing apricot cabbage? My God, it's so huge! How's it possible? I've seen this in the ancient records. This plant only grows 2 inches every 10,000 years. This plant, my God! I reckon it's been around for 200,000 years now." They had just landed when the domineering aura pressed against them again. This time, the aura was more intense. The exotic flowers and rare plants around them seemed to come to life. What was even more peculiar was 6 silhouettes gradually took form and appeared before them. The leader of the pack was dressed in a long purple robe in a classical fashion. He had handsome features and a slender body. For some unknown reason, his looks were familiar to Tang Wulin. Behind him, there was a lady dressed in red who had beautiful looks but a hostile expression. She was a person transformed from the blazing apricot cabbage which Xie pointed to just now. Besides her, there were 4 others who stood with her, and together they walked toward them. It was apparent from their aura that these 6 people were not welcoming of them. 6 plants that were able to take on human forms? Everyone knew full well what this meant. They were the plant system soul beasts that were able to take on human forms. They were of the ranks of great beasts already. Who would have thought that there would be 6 experts of the ranks of great beasts in Tang Sect's secret boundary? It was simply unbelievable. Zongxin smiled and went forward to greet them. "My friends, long time no see. I hope everyone's doing fine." The purple-robed leader said dryly, "We can do better without your disturbances. Amorous Dolor, may I ask what you have in mind for bringing in so many outsiders this time?" Zongxin replied, "Naturally, it's to seek aid from all of you." The purple-robed man's expression darkened. "I remember that our agreement with Tang Sect was that only a single person is allowed into the Icefire Polarized eyes every 100 years, and that person is allowed to take no more than 2 types of herbs. In exchange, you will help us protect this place and won't let it be destroyed by you humans." "That's right." The amorous Dolor nodded. The purple-robed man said coldly, "Then, what's the meaning of you bringing 8 people here this time? Is it not to expose our existence to the whole world?" Zongxin sighed. "If I had any other options, would I come and disturb the slumber of Brother Luo and the others? It's because Tang Sect is facing the danger of collapsing that I'm here. I remember that the Spirit Ice Dolor also had an agreement with you guys that when Tang Sect was in danger of being destroyed, all of you will spare no effort in helping us survive the disaster." The purple-robed man's expression changed. He said in shock, "Tang Sect is at the height of its powers and splendor. How is it possible that it's under threat?" A dash of sadness flashed past Zongxin's eyes. Tang Sect's headquarters was bombarded with rank 12 Godkiller fixed soul ammunitions. The headquarters was destroyed, and 9 title Duluos were sacrificed. There were also more than 1,200 soul masters of varying ranks who were sacrificed on that day. Furthermore, Tang Sect is being attacked on all sides and is forced to stop the operations of its branches. Not only that, I believe everyone knows that Shrek City, in which Shrek Academy was located, was the best city on the continent. Similarly, it suffered a destructive blow. Shrek City was completely destroyed, and more than 10 million people died. In addition, more than 20 title Duluos from Shrek Academy died. The only ones who survived in the inner court are the few youths you see before you now. As the saying goes, when the lips are gone, the teeth will be cold. Ever since the Spirit Ice Dolor passed away, Tang Sect has stood by its promise for 10,000 years and protected the Icefire Polarized eyes. For the longest time, we've never asked for anything from you in return. But now, Tang Sect is facing the danger of being destroyed. If you aren't willing to help us, then I'm afraid Tang Sect won't be able to protect the secret here in the near future, since it'd be destroyed by powerful enemies. Once the Icefire Polarized eyes is exposed, I'm afraid that all of you won't have peaceful days anymore. Although you have sufficient cultivation bases, you're not used to fighting. Moreover, the technology of man has already advanced to the level where your cultivation bases aren't a threat anymore." After he finished, the amorous Dolor sighed again. He stared at the purple-robed man before him, his gaze hopeful. The purple-robed man's brows were tightly knitted together. He turned around and looked at his companions. The divine intention shockwave intensified. It was apparent that they were communicating. This was the first time Tang Wulin heard the actual number of casualties of Tang Sect's and Shrek Academy's title Duluos. For a time, he could not help but felt his heart sank. There were as many as 30 title Dolo ranked experts who died. Shrek Academy was completely destroyed. Tang Sect also suffered as greater calamity. On top of that, they had to face the situation where everybody gave a shove to the falling wall, in which case the falling wall was them. Those were truly difficult times. Without a doubt, the Icefire Polarized Eyes was one of Tang Sect's hidden secrets. Tang Sect could only turn the tides of the situation by relying on these hidden secrets that they had prepared beforehand. After a while, the purple-robed man turned around. He looked at Zongshin with keen sparkling eyes. How then does the amorous Doluo want us to help? Zongshin lowered his voice. I want to equip each of these 8 youths with at least 100,000 years heaven and earth treasure to enhance their cultivation bases and potential. Among them, this girl had been gravely injured, so she needs the velvet skyreach chrysanthemum. As for the others, we'll have to look at their individual conditions. Impossible. The purple-robed man flatly rejected Zongshin without hesitation. When Tang Wulin heard Zongshin's words, he was speechless with wonder. Heaven and earth treasures of 100,000 years cultivation base. Was he trying to con these people here? There was no way that they would agree to those requests. The purple-robed man said angrily, Amorous Doluo, don't push your luck. You must know that it takes 10,000 years to nurture 100,000 years spirit grass even inside the Icefire Polarized Eyes. Ever since we've been robbed by the spirit Ice Doluo, it hasn't been easy for the Icefire Polarized Eyes to have a rest and recover somewhat after 10,000 years. If it's just as you said, this place will immediately wither away and return to the dismal situation it was in 10,000 years ago. Zongshin lowered his voice, Brother Luo, no eggs can remain unbroken when the nest is upset. If I had other choices, I won't be putting forward this proposal. I humbly ask Brother Luo to think this through. As he said this, he took a step forward. His aura suddenly burst forth, and it felt as if it had substance. The entire space instantly turned grim, and the terrifying pressure was suffocating. Tang Wulin had heard his teacher mention that this person before him was a limit Doluo. Even though his cultivation base was not on par with the late Atlas Doluo, there would not have been much of a difference. Moreover, the amorous Doluo had not unleashed his full-word battle armor yet. Zongshin was surprisingly fearless in facing the 6 great plant system soul beasts. He looked more like he wanted to take on all 6 of them at once. It seemed as if he was about to seize by force. He had no other choice but to display his domineering side. The purple-robed man snorted. This is the Icefire Polarized Eyes, not your Tang Sect. Do you think that we'll be completely unprepared after all these years? A layer of purplish light burst forth from his body. A peculiar aroma quickly pervaded the entire space. It lightened the heart and refreshed the mind. When the Shrek 7 monsters smelled the aroma, they immediately felt their body going weightless. They felt an indescribable comfort. From inside the Icefire Polarized Eyes, behind the 6 great beasts, the lake water of different colors suddenly shot toward the skies. The water columns ascended in a spiral like 2 giant dragons. 2 figures gradually appeared in the lake water. All hail the Dragon Lords! All hail the Dragon Lords! The purple-robed man and the other 5 great beasts took a few steps backward as their expressions remained stoic and respectful. 2 giant dragons materialized and hovered above the lake water of the Icefire Polarized Eyes. One of them was icy blue while the other bright red. Both the dragons shone with dazzling brilliance. An unrivaled but domineering aura swept over everyone present. Even with the amorous Doluo's cultivation base, his expression changed despite himself. He took a step backward to shield Tang Wulin and the others. With the appearance of these blue and red dragons, all the plants in the Icefire Polarized Eyes seemed to come to life. For a time, the life source around them increased tremendously and many plants started growing at a quick pace. All the pressure pressed toward Tang Wulin and the others. Zongshin's expression was sour. Brother Luo, Tang sect has protected the Icefire Polarized Eyes for 10,000 years. Have you made such preparations to fight us? The purple-robed man said dryly, protect us? That's right, it's true that you took care of most of the troubles for us, but similarly, we've given back to you. Since the times of your founder, Tang San, when have you stopped asking from us? As for today, since Tang sect is declining, there's nothing more to be said. We'll have no need for your protection in the future. With our abilities, I don't think there's any problem for us to defend ourselves. Zongxin raised his eyebrows. Brother Luo, aren't you worried that we're going to leak information about the Icefire Polarized Eyes? When that time comes, you'll become a public target. The purple-robed man smiled faintly. If every single one of you stays here, do you think that Tang sect will leak the information about us? Zongxin smiled out of extreme anger. I see that Brother Luo is full of confidence. Do you honestly think that, with your capabilities, you're able to imprison me here? The purple-robed man replied dryly, if I didn't have the confidence, we won't be having this dialogue, will we? I wonder if you know about the origins of our two dragon masters. Zongxin's gaze flickered. I humbly request Brother Luo to enlighten me. The purple-robed man replied, back then, the initiator of soul beasts, the dragon god, gave birth to 9 children. Of the 9 children, there were the 7 great elemental holy dragons of water, fire, earth, wind, light, darkness, and space. In addition, there were the mountain dragon, and the most powerful leader of the pack, the golden dragon. Collectively, they were called the 9 great dragon lords. The dragon god had fallen in the divine realm, and the 9 great dragon lords each had their own turn of fortunes in life. Among them, the water dragon king and the fire dragon king had fallen at the same time on this very piece of land. Their bodies were buried thousands of feet under the Icefire Polarized Eyes. In fact, that's how the Icefire Polarized Eyes came about. Their essences nourished everything here. After countless years of hard work, we've finally summoned the dragon souls of the 2 dragon lords to protect our small plot of land. I don't believe that you can fight against god-ranked dragon lords with your mere human strengths. Even if only the dragon souls of the dragon lords are left, I don't think it's too difficult to keep the amorous Dolor here with the combined strengths of the 2 great dragon lords. Zongxin stared at the 2 great dragon lords' dragon souls which hovered in the air while emanating a fierce aura. His expression worsened. Ever since Tang sect's headquarters was destroyed, Tang sect had suffered a great and unprecedented loss. He never thought that it would rain throughout the night when the roof was already leaking. Even in Tang sect's secret boundary, the Icefire Polarized Eyes, such an incident had occurred. As a limit Dolor, he could naturally feel the powerful aura that came from the 2 dragon lords. Although they were dead with only their dragon souls remaining, the will of these 2 great dragon lords were extremely powerful. If it had been only a single dragon lord, he could still manage to hold his own with his forward battle armor. However, if both of them fought together, it would take all he had just to survive. The purple-robed man's judgment was based on his understanding of limit Duluos. He had limited knowledge of battle armors. Nevertheless, with the addition of the 6 great beasts, even if Zongxin managed to run away, he would be gravely injured. It would be impossible for Tang Wulin and the others to survive this. Zongxin had been careless and overconfident, after all. The amorous Doluo Zongxin sighed softly and said, Brother Luo, if I'm willing to leave this place with these youths and continue to uphold the promise of protecting the Icefire Polarized Eyes, I wonder if Brother Luo would let us leave. The purple-robed man smiled. The amorous Doluo should know that once a soul beast has the cultivation base of our ranks, our intelligence will not be inferior to yours. How can you utter such childish rubbish? Our hidden secrets have been revealed. How can we let you leave this place alive? Zongxin's gaze turned cold. Do you really think that you can keep me here? If he was alone, he naturally would not have made such compromises. However, for the survival of these youths from Tang Sect and Shrek Academy, he had no choice but to do so. Just when he was about to unleash his forward battle armor and intimidate his opponents, a voice suddenly came from behind him. Vice Hall Master, these dragon souls are nothing. When these words were said, it immediately attracted the attention of Zongxin and the 6 great beasts before him. Tang Wulin held Gu's hand and came to Zongxin's side. He looked at the purple-robed man before him and said dryly, "Sir, since you know that there's the Ice Dragon King and the Fire Dragon King, I wonder if you can recognize the aura on our bodies." As he said this, the blood essence vortex within him swirled intensely. His Golden Dragon King bloodline aura surged and overflowed. Although Gu Yuana was muddle-headed currently under Tang Wulin's guidance, a layer of silvery glow also appeared on her body. The seven-colored elemental shockwave in their surroundings suddenly intensified. It resonated with Tang Wulin's Golden Dragon King bloodline. In midair, the two swirling ice and fire giant dragon souls suddenly paused in their movements. Shortly after, the two shadows descended from the skies and hovered 100 meters above Tang Wulin and Gu Yuana. The terrifying pressure that was there before instantly vanished. Surprisingly, there was some genuine affection shown by the two great Icefire Dragon Lords' dragon souls. They were even excited emotionally. Gu Yuana giggled. She flapped her wings and rose into the skies. The purple-robed man had wanted to stop her, but an extremely sharp thought burst forth from Zongxin, who was close to him. It suppressed the beast so forcefully that they were unable to move even a single muscle. Gu rose into the skies, but Tang Wulin did not stop her. He only let out a loud roar toward the skies. A giant golden dragon's head enveloped his body. It was brazenly the golden dragon roars. Amidst his dragon's roar, the ice and fire dragon lords in the air trembled and displayed emotions of fear. As dragon souls, they no longer possess intelligence. They only had some of their initial powers. Under the many plant system soul beasts' nourishment and help, they had regained their forms. No matter what the case may be, the genes which originated from the very depths of their bloodline could never be altered. The Golden Dragon King's roar and the Silver Dragon King's aura was the most fearsome to them. Gu Yuana beat her wings and rose into the skies. The two dragon lords immediately circled around her and roared alongside. Gu Yuana giggled with a tone that sounded like silver bells. For a time, the gloominess that was present before this had been cleanly swept away. Zongxin's gaze was full of shock, and the purple-robed man's face turned pale. He said with fright, "Golden Dragon King, Silver Dragon King. No, it's impossible." Tang Wulin said dryly, "In this world, nothing is impossible. The way I see it, I'm afraid these two dragon lords won't help you anymore. Gu, let them return to where they came from." Gu Yuana replied with a simple, "Oh." She beat her wings and flew toward the Icefire Polarized eyes. The two giant dragons had been depending on the Icefire Polarized ice lake water to render substance to themselves. Under Gu Yuana's guidance, they immediately flew back to the spot where they appeared above the lake and re-entered the lake. Only two little dragon souls, no longer than 2 meters, remained. They circled around Gu Yuana joyfully. The Golden Dragon King and the Silver Dragon King were transformed by the fallen dragon god many years ago. The Silver Dragon King inherited the dragon god's 7 great elemental abilities, whereas the Golden Dragon King inherited the bloodlines of the Golden Dragon and the Mountain Dragon. The Ice and Fire Dragons were naturally close to the Silver Dragon King's aura. They were like children who met their mother. For a while, they completely ignored the existence of the plant system great beasts. Obviously, the amorous Doluo did not expect something like this to happen. A faint smile appeared at the edge of his lips. "Brother Luo, this is certainly some turn of events. But I never expected that the years of Tang sect's protection has been forgotten by ungrateful bastards like you. I now believe that there's a reason for the demise of soul beasts on the continent," the purple-robed man said with a ghastly pale expression. "You humans have treated us soul beasts as items for your own improvement. How can we not have some method of self-preservation? Even if we don't have the 2 dragon lords, if the 6 of us join forces, there's still a chance that you may not succeed." The calm he had before this was now gone. There was only an outward display of toughness in a desperate attempt to mask his inner frailty. Zongxin squinted his eyes, and the smile on his face widened by the moment. "I'd like to try. Let's see if Brother Luo's damask tulip is more powerful, or my amorous sword is sharper." A sword's consciousness burst forth from the amorous Doluo's body, shocking the very heavens. He had suppressed it for a long time now, and when it appeared, it felt as though it dominated the whole world and looked down on all creation. The powerful swords will even disperse the seven-colored miasma. A beam of sunlight shined through the rift of the miasma and into the valley. Standing at the back, Yi Xinglan felt the amorous Duoluo sword's consciousness and her eyes lit up immediately. Her martial soul was also a sword, and to see an expert sword's consciousness would be immensely helpful for her own cultivation. 300,000-year spirit creatures, said the purple-robed man through gritted teeth. The amorous Duoluo ignored him and said coldly, 8 and not 1 less. Otherwise, I'll kill all of you here and now. After all, it's not a difficult task. With the nourishing effects of the Icefire Polarized eyes, there'll naturally be enough heaven and earth spiritual creatures in no time. Considering that the Tang sect has been too lenient in the past, we'll assume full control of this place from now on. The 6 of you are of higher quality than 100,000-year spirit creatures. I think that you guys will do fine as well. The lady in red, blazing apricot cabbage, yelled angrily, don't you go overboard. If worse comes to worst, we'll let the fish die and tear the net. I think that we can kill you with our combined strengths. Even if we fall here, I won't let you have your way. You don't? All right. Celestial light shot forth from Zongxin's eyes. The sword's consciousness which filled the heavens instantly solidified. To their astonishment, it was a 100-foot-long sword. At the same time, streams of silver liquid surged out of his pores, quickly forming armor which covered his entire body. This glittering, translucent silver suit was like a living creature with 3 pairs of wings. There were countless patterns on the magnificent armor, while light flowed and swirled within it. The amorous Duoluo's stature also grew until he was 3 meters tall. He was at the core of this gigantic figure, while the rest of the body was made of his armor. He raised his hand and a massive sword hung over the Icefire Polarized eyes. An extremely terrifying sword's consciousness made its presence felt across the land. Millions of small swords appeared around the 100-feet-long giant sword. There was a rose emblem on amorous Duoluo's full-word battle armor's mask. His eyes were like gentle pools as if they were filled with endless longing. A full-word battle armor limit Duoluo. The only time Tang Wulin and his companions had seen an individual display such powerful combat strength was when they had witnessed the Atlas Duoluo just before the destruction of Shrek Academy. This was their second time. The entire Icefire Polarized eyes shook violently. Even the movements of the 2 dragon souls which circled around Guu slowed. The world seemed to be overwhelmed with the sword's consciousness, full of longing. The 7-colored miasma in the air was crushed in an instant and dispersed immediately. If one looked up to the skies, it even appeared as though the light of the sun itself had transformed into a giant sword. The tip of the sword pointed precisely at the Icefire Polarized eyes. God-ranked. This is impossible. It's God-ranked. The purple-robed man's voice was full of terror, and his face had lost its color. The amorous Duoluo's gentle voice reverberated in the valley. If it's the golden-eyed Black Dragon King Di Qian, then you might still stand a chance. You are but beings cultivated from plants. How much combat experience do you have? Do you even have the bloodline suitable for battle? I could easily tear all of you to pieces right here and now even if there were 10 of you, leave alone 6. Do you still think that the 2 great dragon lords can stop me from leaving? Do you still think that I can't return the 6 of you to your spiritual creature's form? Behind the purple-robed man, a man clad in white clothes turned pale. Has humankind become so powerful already? The amorous Duoluo said dryly, that's right. So do you still think that the Tang sect's protection is meaningless after all these years? There are now as many as 10 individuals who are at the level of a demigod, just like I am. I don't need too many of them. If only 2 of my colleagues come here, you couldn't even stop me with your 2 dragon lords. After all, they don't have the support of their actual bodies. If it comes to that, then the Icefire Polarized eyes would truly face certain doom. I know that it isn't easy for you guys to have cultivated to this level, and your presence can enhance the effects of the Icefire Polarized eyes to produce more heaven and earth treasures, so I'll give you one last chance. 8 types of 100,000-year spiritual items and not a single type less. The purple-robed man looked dejected. I humbly ask the amorous Dolor to retract his divine powers for now. We'll discuss this peacefully. Zhongxin's mask hid the smile that appeared at the edge of his lips. The monstrous sword's consciousness shrank, and he dropped back onto the ground. However, he did not show any intention of releasing his full-word battle armor. The 100-foot sword descended from the skies. It landed behind him and turned into a long, silver sword. The amorous sword. It was Amorous Dolor's amorous sword with which he shocked the entire continent. The heartless one truly has feelings, the amorous swordsman wields the merciless sword. This statement was used to describe the two great masters of the modern Tang sect. The heartless Dolor rarely killed anyone, whereas this amorous Dolor had been a god of war during his youth. When he was still with a fighter with the Battle Soul Hall, he had taken countless lives. In hopes of becoming the master of the Dolor Hall, he had made the most of his great strength. However, he loathed evil as if it was his personal enemy, so he showed no mercy to his foes. This was the reason he did not become the Hall Master in the end and ended up being the Vice Hall Master. In terms of cultivation base, he was not inferior to the heartless Dolor. Gu had already returned to Tang Wulin's side. She looked curiously at the gorgeous full-word battle armor, 3 meters tall with 6 wings on its back. The purple-robed man, damask tulip, sighed. Amorous Dolor, you win this time. Other than the 6 of us, there are 16 types of 100,000-year heaven and earth treasures in the Icefire Polarized eyes. You should know that although they did not gain higher intelligence under our control, they are still true plant system soul beasts. When their lives are threatened, these people whom you brought here must be able to subdue them. Their combat strength will be slightly more powerful than ordinary 10,000-year soul beasts. However, they aren't at the ranks of true 100-year soul beasts. The amorous Dolor nodded his head. This was the truth. Although no other plants had turned into true 100,000-year soul beasts under the suppression of these 6 great beasts, their energy was already at that level. Naturally, they would be able to grow to the ranks of great beasts if they were given the chance. Tang Wulin asked curiously, why didn't you allow them to develop their intelligence? If you did, wouldn't the Icefire Polarized eyes be stronger? The purple-robed man said coldly, do you think that we didn't want to? It's not that we did not wish it, but our hands were tied. Spiritual creatures like us relied on the Icefire Polarized eyes for our accelerated growth. 10,000 years worth of growth was equivalent to 100,000 years worth of cultivation base. Naturally, it's fine if it was within 10,000 years, but once we cultivated to 10,000 years, which was actually equal to 100,000 years, we must endure the punishment of the gods, which was inevitable for all 100,000-year soul beasts. We plants are already much more fragile compared to our animal counterparts, so it's much more difficult for us to bear divine punishment. Moreover, we hadn't actually experienced 100,000 years of life. In the first few 10,000 years when we were born, it seemed that all plants that reached the ranks of 100,000 years died without exception. It was only many years later, under the combined effects of luck and the individual's own body, that great beasts were gradually born. However, it's still an extremely rare occurrence. In other words, even if only 1 out of 100 individual 100,000-year soul beasts born here survived a god's punishment, it would be a cause for celebration. I'm the only one who survived the punishment for a second time. Even so, I can say with absolute certainty that I won't be able to survive a third time. Since we had no confidence in succeeding, we chose to not have them develop intelligence. Without intelligence, they won't invoke the god's envy. There will still be punishment, but it'll be much weaker. With our help, they can live a longer life. With 6 soul beasts that had achieved 100,000-year cultivation base, this is already the highest number since the formation of the Icefire Polarized eyes. 10,000 years after this, it'll be difficult to say how many of us will still be left. So that's how it is, Tang Wulin thought to himself. These plants seem to be able to grow rapidly thanks to the Icefire Polarized eyes, but apparently, it was not all sunshine and rainbows. As if he could tell what Tang Wulin was pondering, the amorous Dolor smiled and said, it's not what you think. I'm sure all the plants are happy to grow around Icefire Polarized eyes. If they did not and they cultivated normally, it would be an achievement just for a plant system soul beast to be produced out of 1 million plants. It's also very rare for these plant system soul beasts to cultivate intelligence. However, in this place, as long as the plant had lived long enough, almost all of them could turn into soul beasts. Isn't that a fantastic opportunity? If this weren't the case, do you think that they'd still be willing to stay here? Icefire Polarized Eyes is also very helpful for them in resisting divine punishment. It was true that Tang Wulin's knowledge of plant system soul beasts was insufficient. However, after he had heard Amorous Dolor's words, he got the idea that this land was still precious for plants. The purple-robed man sighed softly. Amorous Dolor, after this extortion, please don't come back for another 1,000 years. Can you do that? The wise man does not catch fish by draining the pool. There's no need to fear that we'll be too strong. Since mankind is this powerful, we'll still need Tang sect's protection in the future. When the time comes, old-timers like us will obviously not survive. I can promise you that when we think that our life is up, we'll be willing to turn into spirit souls and fight for the chance to become a god alongside you soul masters. However, I implore that you keep your part of the deal as well and not ask too much of the Icefire Polarized Eyes. Zongshin's eyes lit up. All right, I'll promise you that. You'll be proud of your own choices. Didn't eight-pointed frozen grass back rise to the heavens alongside Spirit Ice Dolor back then? Maybe, one day, you'll be able to do the same. The purple-robed man laughed bitterly. I dare not harbor extravagant hopes. Come with me. I'll take you to retrieve Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum first. As he said this, he turned around and walked in the direction of Icefire Polarized Eyes. The plants parted naturally and a path was opened up before them. Under the protection of the Amorous Dolor, they made their way to the Icefire Polarized Eyes side. It was 100,000-year heaven and earth spiritual item. How could it not make their hearts flutter? Don't let your guard down. With your strengths, it won't be a problem for you to fight the soul beasts here, but you mustn't underestimate your opponents. If you fail, you'll lose the opportunity to obtain 100,000-year spirit grass. 100,000-year spirit grass won't be able to produce a soul bone, but as long as it harmonizes well enough with your bodies, it can at least raise your soul power cultivation basis by 3 ranks. At the same time, it can raise your potential to at least that of a Hyperdolor's. In the future, when you're working toward becoming a Hyperdolor, it'll be a vast boundless plain, warned Zongshin. Tang Wulin looked at Gu beside him slightly worried. He was not afraid of anything else, but there was a bit of a problem with Gu's condition. Could she still fight on her own now? The Holy Spirit Dolor had said that a 10,000-year Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum was enough to overcome her problem. If that was not possible, 100,000-year one should work just as well. A giant, brilliant golden chrysanthemum with fine fluffy hairs presented itself before everyone. It did not have a strong scent, and its stalk was exceptionally thick and sturdy. The giant chrysanthemum flower swayed gently and gave off a natural domineering aura. No other plants grew within 5 meters of it. This was the result of the shock of its powerful plant aura. 100,000 years Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum. You can't use any metal objects to harvest it. It should start to show resistance once it's touched. You must defeat its transformation, said the purple-robed man with gloomy eyes. Tang Wulin glanced at Gu. Gu, can you fight? Gu was stunned. Fight what? Tang Wulin replied, when you touch this chrysanthemum after this, it might transform and hit you. Can you deal with that? Hit me? Why would it hit me? Xiao Lan and Xiao Hong told me that they wanted to give me all the flowers here as gifts. This chrysanthemum is pretty. I'll go and pluck it. As she said this, she hopped and skipped over to the flower. She raised her hand and touched the Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum. Tang Wulin followed closely behind her. The moment any sudden changes occurred, he would attack at the first moment and protect Gu. When Gu touched the big chrysanthemum, its golden petals suddenly shrunk away. Shortly after, a mass of golden light shone and seemed to charge toward Gu. At this very moment, 2 dragon roars went out at the same time. A blue and red light appeared above Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum almost instantly. A domineering pressure descended from above and suppressed the Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum until it was unable to move. Guu did not waste any effort in plucking the flower. The pair of dragon souls immediately circled around her. Guu giggled, "Thanks, guys. I like it." When the 6 great beasts saw the ice and fire dragon souls fawning over her, they could not help but stare with their mouths agape. Was this silver-haired, purple-eyed young lady's silver dragon king bloodline truly that pure? Naturally, there was no psychological burden when the pair of ice and fire dragons helped Guu pluck this Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum. It could be said that all the heaven and earth spiritual items here were nurtured by them. Guu held the big flower in her hands and returned to Tang Wulin. She lifted it as if she was showing it off. "Father, look. Isn't it pretty?" Tang Wulin touched his nose and looked at the purple-robed man. How should she eat this? The man in purple fought back the strong urge to cover his face with his hands. "Peel off the petals and eat them one by one." Tang Wulin said to Guu, "This is delicious. Try it. Eat one petal at a time." "Really?" Guu's eyes brightened. The new her was like a little glutton. She immediately peeled off a petal and shoved it into her own mouth. As expected, the petal melted as soon as it entered her mouth. It turned into a sweet, refreshing liquid with a chrysanthemum's aroma and slid down her throat. "It's really delicious. Father, have some too." As she said this, she immediately peeled off a handful of petals and passed them to Tang Wulin. "I'll pass. Eat up." "Quick," added Tang Wulin hastily. "No, no." Guu pouted her red lips. "Good things must be shared with father." Tang Wulin was about to reject her offer when the pair of ice and fire dragon souls that circled above Guu suddenly growled. Tang Wulin vision blurred, and a handful of chrysanthemum petals were shoved into his mouth. The Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum's petals immediately liquefied and slid down his throat. He could not spit them out even if he wanted to. Guu giggled, "Good job, little blue, little red." Tang Wulin hardened his expression and said angrily, "Guu." Guu stuck out her tongue. "Father, it's my fault. I'll eat what's left." Tang Wulin's brows were slightly furrowed. With that handful, he had eaten at least 1/3 of the Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum. He was unsure if the remaining flower had enough potency to heal Guu recover. It should be enough, right? After all, this was 100,000-year Velvet Skyreach Chrysanthemum. After it entered his stomach, a hot sensation flowed from his belly and radiated toward his limbs and bones. Tang Wulin felt his body quickly heating up. It was a warm feeling in the beginning, but after he took a few breaths, the wave of